Now, broadcasting from the jungles of Southeast Asia, it is time for the Ed Namrock Podcast.
All right, no matter how many times I play the intro, ladies and gentlemen, I just can't get over how my buddy, my confidant, my brother from another, Jaime Salas, did on the voiceover, because that's basically an instrumental that I wrote a couple years back. And funny fact about that instrumental that plays in the background of the intro, I actually pitched it to a show on Showtime called Shameless, and well, I didn't get picked up, unfortunately, but I was this close to getting picked up. But anyway, joining me today is a very, very dear friend of mine. I've been well acquainted for him for a long time. I got a lot of history with him too, a lot of great times. We have so many stories, and I'm sure he has more than I do. Because he's lived the service industry lifestyle for quite some time, and I know he chose another path, and now he's doing better. And I want to welcome my brother from another, Frank Ledezma. What's up?
What
man?
up, Edge? How you doing, brother?
I used to love it when you called me that, man. It was like, because that was my favorite pro wrestler at the moment of the Attitude Era. And when you started calling me that, I'm like, oh, he must know who he is. That's pretty cool. I'm like, okay. And,
dude, you were the living Edge. Man? I'm good.
Oh my God, dude. It's I remember Jose, my buddy Jose, and they would always go with me to Alhambra. He's like, did he just call you Edge? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, dude, we should totally be a tag team. Like, who do you want me to be? And I'm like, that's up to you. It's up to him to call you a name. I don't know what he's going to call you. He's probably going to call you like.
And it's not even that. This is from all of us playing sports for so many years. And sometimes I rub people the wrong way, but you earn that nickname, you know?
Exactly.
And you can't just give yourself a nickname because it doesn't work. It's done, dude. If you call yourself something like Speedy, it's like, hey, Slowpoke, get over here. Hey,
exactly.
Hey, you just go completely opposite.
Yeah, I've heard nicknames like Tubbs, Stone Hands, Chicken Legs, Beaks, like Beaker because of the nose. I'm just like,
for you, dude.
No, just teammates around. My nickname was Drago because I resembled Ivan Drago in high school. And Bledsoe was my big one because I was a diehard like Drew Blitzer, dick rider, man. I kid you not. He was my idol.
You're a Pats guy.
I was so okay. So the short, the long and the short of that I was orphaned with an NFL team because we didn't have any, and my passion was baseball. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm still a Dodger fan. I'm like, but who do I cheer on for football? Yeah. So it was the UCLA Trojans or UCLA Bruins or USC Trojans that I would go watch games, and that's how I saw Washington State's quarterback in 1992, I think, and that was Drew Bledsoe. Okay.
Yeah.
And I adopted that team since then. Yeah, man. And I was awesome. Like, holy shit, that's a quarterback. That dude's big. He was like 6'5", 230. I was like, and then I seen him during warmups, Frank. I kid you not. He was like the Patrick Mahomes of that era.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure and then Brett Favre came along, and then John Elway was still around. Dan Marino. I was like, God, that was like the peak quarterback club era.
Which you had Joe Montana, and then you had Steve Young. Steve Young was my favorite quarterback back then.
So yes, now I know why Bill Walsh never wanted to trade him. I was like, that's why, because this guy's an element. So
dude started in Tampa. There's football cards of him in that orange uniform.
What do they call those orange color? It was like a weird liquidy, like peachy orange. Yeah. But anyway, for those listening, watching, or gonna watch the replay, I want to talk about how I know Frank. It was very interesting. I try to check to see how far it dates back, Frank. I thought it was January 2006, and it's not. I was looking at some pictures, and it was actually November 2005.
Yeah.
When I first met you and a couple of the other patrons at the cigar lounge. And the cigar lounge I'm referring to was Havana House in Alhambra on Main Street. And a lot of stories. I don't know if, okay, let me ask you this question. Did I start frequenting there when you were already working, or you had just started there?
So you knew Oscar, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I still talk to him, yeah.
I think
Which
you
is
were
another guy that
coming
wants to get on
in.
the podcast.
Well, I got a story about Oscar too.
Oh,
We need to
okay.
give him props because he's never gotten these props from too many people. But
Yeah.
when I got hired on, I was a fill-in for the manager that was before me, and they kind of
Yeah.
like slid me backdoor-esque. So long story short,
Oh, okay.
I was behind the bar opening for them and just making
Wow.
some nickels. And my
Yeah.
goal was not to be a bartender at the Havana House, you know.
Yeah.
But it was a little extra cash in my pocket, and I'd go from there to like, you know, a bar or a club somewhere else that I was working at night.
Yeah.
So I want to say that was like end of summer 2005, because I only like
Okay.
bartended there for like, and I mean it gets fuzzy, but
Yeah.
6 to 8 weeks, and then
Yeah.
they made a transition, and then they brought me and Oscar into the positions. And
Oh,
you know,
wow.
the one thing that I'd say about Oscar, he's an amazing guy.
Hell yeah, he is.
Without Oscar actually convincing the owners to bring in a DJ on Tuesday nights, that
Yeah.
place would have never been what it was.
Wow,
He
no
convinced them,
way.
let's DJ, and he worked hard at that to get that done. And they
Whoa,
finally said,
that's so
yeah.
crazy.
And I remember, so when you first walk into the spot, remember the first TV by the bar on the right hand side
Yeah,
where
I
where all the
certainly
double
do.
doors open?
Oh,
That's where the
yeah.
DJ first started.
Yes, I remember that.
And
Yeah.
there was no room because people got word. It was like a $2 martini and a DJ, and you
Oh,
know,
Lord, I remember those Tuesdays.
like
Yes.
2 months later, 300 people
Yeah.
later, we had to move the DJ onto the patio, open it up, really turn it into a
Wow.
hotspot.
That is so crazy because
Yeah.
when I started frequenting there, that was already. I remember I used to go on Wednesdays for Stale Rod, and they would do Sundays, and that's how I got to know you. And I never forgot how you would yell at the end of the night after last call, like Havana House is closed, ladies and gentlemen, everyone's got to go. That was just so like, I don't know what your tone and delivery was, so alpha, man, that I'm just like, hey, we got to close our tab up. Come on, let's go. And
You know,
you cleared the place out quick, man.
but I treaded the line, and I knew security was always watching, and everyone
Yeah.
wanted that one last song. And people, I mean, that was family, man. People like to
Yeah.
be a part of it, no matter what day they walked in. So, you know, some people thought they could stay past the last call, you know, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
You know, in order to support my
I know you
boys,
let
I
me a
had to.
couple of times just chill, which is awesome. You're like, hey, if you
Well,
want, just clean up this table and whatever. I'm like,
nah,
okay,
dude,
cool.
your family. Like what I did, the reason why I did that was to support my boys, because I knew every night was a
Yeah.
tough night for them, managing that door and keeping an eye on, you
Yeah.
know, everything from the shitter to the front door.
Oh,
So,
man, and
yeah.
there was some patrons that would come in. I'm just like, oh God, this guy's coming. I'm like, how has he not been 86 from the place yet?
Yeah.
And man, but you always did a great job of basically commanding that the whole helm, man. And kid you not, Oscar did too. And then shout out to Steve as well. But you were like, I don't know, for some reason to me, you always stood out. I don't know if it's a height thing with us tall guys, or if it's just your tone and delivery, man. I don't know what it was, but I'm like, we made sure like, oh, who's working today? Oh, Oscar, cool. It was a different vibe. Steve took over tonight. Okay, cool, different vibe. I'm like, who's there tonight? Oh, it's Frank. I'm like, oh, we have to go. I'm like, okay, we have to go. And you were really cool. Like once I think once the door guy changed, I remember back then it was Fernando, and I befriended
Fernando was
him.
one of the door guys.
And then then our boy Jerry came into play. And I had to like kind of win him over. That's when
Jerry
the good times.
He was our pit bull.
Oh my
Like
God!
if you could win, if Jerry knew that you were one of our guys, or you couldn't win him over, you just don't cross him. But you had the door access. He did a really good job of managing that door. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. And there was at times where like he'd look at me like, is this person cool? And I give him the sign like, like, no, don't let him in or make him wait. So it was so awesome. Like we all had that good like commodity with one another, and we just it was never a bad time there unless you got really butt drunk and you had to fucking vomit in the restroom. That's the only time. But other than
The
that,
only
man,
time,
I got so
the only
many.
time I felt bad was when someone was way too drunk and they couldn't hold themselves up. And it was like, we got to figure out how to get them out because it doesn't look good. And it's only 11 o'clock. Or,
Yes.
or sometimes the tabs were high because they had a good time. And it was like, dude, that's family. And there's only so much you can do. Take, hey, so-and-so, take 3 beers off in a shot, put it on us, and then, give him the bill and let's see what he can do or she can do.
That's so awesome.
Dude, that's all hospitality right there.
Yeah, 100%, man.
Yeah, I didn't go to school for that. I just knew how I would like to be treated when I went somewhere.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do the same thing for other people. So.
And you were so good with like the newcomers that never experienced a cigar lounge because they're like, hey, yeah, we do smoke inside the bar.
Yeah.
But I never forgot your line for every like new girl that would go up to the bar. They were just really reluctant. Your line was, oh, so what's your poison? What's your poison? And they were like, what? I'm like, yeah, what's your poison?
Yeah.
And I remember you gave it was like a Patron shot with a lime twist and some salt. And this girl was just sipping on it. And I'm like, oh, I see what he did. He's trying to get her to feel comfortable. And then before you know it, she was like, okay, give me this, give me that. I'm like, oh, so that's how you do it. And I saw you because I don't know if you remember, I was working for Singular Wireless.
Yeah, I remember you used to come in with the polo. Right?
Yeah,
or blue shirt, a polo.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, I can really learn something out of this service industry. I'm like, okay, let's see how they do things. And I kid you not, I picked up a lot of stuff off of you. I know me and Jose did for sure. Because believe it or not, we were watching you guys while we were drinking and just kind of like, okay, I see how you did this. I'm like, all right. Only because it was helping us with our commission checks, man. It was I was like, and then the rapport too.
If you and it's business, and I'm not a business expert. I didn't take classes. I'm sure someone's out there listening or is going to listen and be like, "Who's this schmo giving advice?" But remember, you're gaining someone's trust because they're giving you their hard-earned money. That's what that is.
Yeah.
And if you can't gain their trust, why the fuck am I going to give you my money?
100%.
And that was something that I learned in an odd way. And obviously we didn't learn it by what the fuck, but with Pepsi, like and I came up, as a merchandiser up into the sales ranks and new business with Pepsi in my, early 20s. And we learned customer first, take care of the customer, make sure the customer's happy. He's going to buy that extra Y and Z if they trust you, if your word is true and you stick to it. And, I carried that on. I mean, with being human, you can't always follow that, but in as many businesses as I could be involved in, I try to keep that as, clean as possible.
That's awesome. So when did you leave Alhambra? I know you went from Havana House did you go to Fronteras across the street?
No, 2007. Yeah, it was a departure. We'll leave it at that. It was a departure. 2007.
Well, I started noticing that once you departed, and then my boy Steel Rod followed suit, and it just I could see like it was kind of like a franchise winning team for so many seasons that eventually the mold was just going to get reinvented, and I'm just like, okay, well, dark times are coming. Let's see what happens, and eventually they got picked back up, and that's when some new stuff opened up, and that's when I seen you at Cities and in East LA, and I'm just like, oh, cool, man.
I mean, not to. Originally, I was going to go to a spot in downtown, and I flaked on it.
Oh, really?
I got hired.
I remember I would always see you I would see you at the Golden Gopher in Redwood.
Oh yeah, the Gopher was my spot for a really long time.
Times, man. You introduced me to that place.
My favorite night on a Gopher is sitting there on a Monday after we've already been bar hopping and just fucking end the night there. And back then it was for like $5, it was a well whiskey and a cigarette. Like that was their deal.
I remember that. You could smoke indoor.
Yeah. Well, yeah, technically.
Well, yeah, there was an
on
exception.
On a Monday at 11:30. Yes.
Yeah, and then just like and you turned me to that place. You got to go to the Gopher. I'm like, what's the Gopher? And he's like, dude,
Gopher.
it's Golden Gopher downtown LA. He's like, you could take you told me you could take the bus there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. You could take the bus there.
The Gopher. Actually, I don't know how true the story is, but from what I heard, the Golden Gopher was the first one to open up. And since they were so successful in a short period of time, that's when the 312 group, I believe, the guys that opened that in 7th Grand, the city gave them the keys and said, run a tight ship and, we'll approve your liquor licenses and get you in there. And that's not verbatim, but yeah, that's the story I remember about that. So,
because I would always frequent La Cita. And then you're like, oh, well, check this place out. It's a little bit more divey. So
dude, dive bars. Like the first time I was able to walk in a dive bar, dude.
Oh my
dive bar, like, oh, you give me a good dive bar, and I'm the happiest pig in shit, dude.
Man, I don't think they've ever replicated that in Alhambra as well as they could have, but man, my favorite dive bar, believe it or not. It's now called the Moon Room in Echo Park Silver Lake, I think. I forgot what it used to be called, but literally like over there where Sunset by Avenue of the Athletes. Yeah. Silver Lake.
Yeah.
There's this place called the I think it's called the Gold Room.
Okay, I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's right. It's cross street. I think it's Echo Park Boulevard. If I can't, it's all a blur because I used to go there a lot. But that's like that's where they broadcast a lot of baseball games, and of course it's a Dodger spot. But one time it was when New York came to LA, the Yankees, and that place was filled with just a mixed crowd. I'm just like, oh man, this is at capacity. How the hell am I going to get in here? And I started hearing the New York accents, and I'm just like, oh, dude. I go, NYC's in the house. I'm like,
they took over. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, but they were tripping out because they were like, last call, 1:30. They're like, what the fuck is last call?
Yeah.
What's last call?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, man, I forgot to tell you about California, man. And they're like, bullshit, after party, we got this house up the street. I don't even know the fuck we are, but come down. They would invite anyone. They were just
fucking you come down. Hey, get that fucking Dodger fan over there. He was cool. Get him over there. Let's bring him up to the house. And the fucking convertible Mustang, right? Pulling up with the
I was like, oh, yes. They were big on that. And I vibed with them real cool, real awesome. And they're just so fast paced. And then when they come to LA, they're like, man, this is so laid back. And I'm like, that's how it is here, man. And he's like, oh, you guys got to come to New York. We got some good pies. I didn't know they call pizza pie.
Yeah, pizza.
My
first, as a young man, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I got like two stories to throw at you with what we were just talking about. But my first interaction, like a true New Yorker, I was at Pepsi, and I was like, like 23. And there was a guy named Jimmy, and they're always named Jimmy, but there's a guy named Jimmy who was in sales, and he was like this. I don't know how he ended up in Laguna, but he was living in Laguna. He was working with Pepsi. He was sharper than a whip, and he was just like, I'm in New York, and I'm going to basically beat all you fucks. And he didn't give a fuck who he talked to. Hey, fucking, hey, I'm not going to wear that fucking polo. He'd always be at a button down and all this stuff. So we're at a Yankee Angel game because it was when they changed over to, they put the Disneyland, Pride Rock. Pepsi took over. Pepsi finally took over the stadium.
That's right. I remember that.
We got tickets the first week it opened. It was probably like third or fourth game of the week. And the Yankees were in town. And first inning, I don't remember who it was. It might have been Mo Vaughn or someone back then. Boom, hits a dinger, right? So the Yankees are already down 1-0, and Jimmy's fucking pacing back and forth the entire time.
My God.
It's the first inning, 1-0, and he was already in his New York. Fuck this, we can't fucking lose this game. What the fuck? Blah, 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 blah,
They're so serious about their team. I'm like, oh wow. I'm like,
dude, Yankee Stadium. I know you and I were chatting about it,
man.
The Yankee Stadium for me as a Yankee fan is the greatest stadium ever because I walk in and I'm not getting shit from anyone, and everyone is cheering for the exact same team. I have my Yankee hat.
Dodger
He has his
Stadium.
Yankee hat. He has his Yankee hat. Dude, it's like, oh man, it's the mecca.
And the food is better, is what I've been hearing from the concession. So
I mean, I'm a dog and a beer guy, so I don't really get too
me
deep
too,
into,
man.
like,
Me too.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Give me a couple dogs, couple beers, I'm happy. Yeah.
It's funny how
onions and mustard.
Oh man, no ketchup.
Dude, yeah.
It's like no ketchup. It's funny because my buddies from Chicago too, because they're Cubs fans. We were watching the games together when Chicago and LA were in the NLCS, and they're like, "Oh man, well, what I wouldn't kill to go to Wrigley," and I'm just like, "Man, I never even been to Chicago, man, so I don't know." And they told me that, and I'm sure you've been in Chicago plenty of times.
Yeah.
That the apartments behind the stadium.
Yeah. Murphy's.
I didn't know they work out deals with the stadium to actually sell tickets to watch the game from the rooftop of an apartment.
Yeah, the rooftops have been
party there.
Years. Yeah.
Oh
yeah, the rooftop.
That is so badass, dude.
Wrigley has.
You don't have that in LA.
No. So I mean, Jesus God, we can talk forever.
Oh man.
So born and raised in Southern California, right?
Yeah.
We're not in San Diego. We're not in San Francisco. I mean, I've never been to Oakland Coliseum, but I'm assuming it's the same way. I've been up to Seattle. I know it's pretty much, you could go from a bar across the street to the stadium.
Yeah.
Out here, we can't do that.
No, we can, man. It's so constrained.
The first time that I saw a Cubs game in Chicago, I decided to get a ticket. Back then it was the Cubs and the Astros, and it was right before the Astros started banging on trash cans and drafting everyone from like fucking Altuve to all of those boys, right? It was basically two last place teams, last game of the season. It was raining that day, but they were still going to play the game.
Wow.
So I get on the train, buy a $10 ticket, get on the train, and I take the train over to Wrigley, and it's 10 minutes, 12 minutes at the most. So
are you kidding?
Right off the bat, yeah, I've never even taken a train to a baseball game, and I'm like, holy shit, this is awesome. You walk off, bars everywhere, and I've already been there. I just hadn't been through the Wrigley experience.
Oh,
and I'm like,
man, that is
you're
so
walking
awesome.
off. People are selling you tickets. People are selling you T-shirts. The whole place is surrounded and packed. And this is like a shitty game. It's not even a great game. So like you're getting this great experience, and you're like, holy shit, this is awesome. I went to the NLCS Game 1, Dodgers, Cubs, 2016. And that was probably, besides seeing the Yankees beat the Cubs 3 times at Wrigley, was one of the best games I had ever been to.
Oh, yeah, you went to Wrigley, huh? That's right.
Oh, I've been there a few times. Yeah.
Oh, man. It's such a small stadium, I heard, but it's the culture's pretty.
It's a little league
intact.
stadium, and it's beautiful. Oh, it's beautiful.
Wow,
yeah.
man. But
I've been there, and I've been to Fenway too.
Yeah, I didn't know Dodger Stadium is the biggest one, though. I didn't know that. At all MLB, I had no idea. Like the size of the stadium, I didn't know that was the biggest one, and it fits the most people.
That's
I'm
interesting.
Like, what the hell? I'm like, the second I think is Fenway. I think Fenway's the second one.
And that's a beautiful part too.
My God,
Fenway's,
I mean,
oh my God! If you're a true baseball fan,
I'm a Patriots fan, but and I would go to Boston for that reason. But I mean, I would love to go to Fenway to go to a Sox game, and they have the old bleachers. I heard.
Yeah. Fenway is the type of park, if the Sox aren't in town or it's off season, you still want to go see it from outside and go get a beer at one of the bars in the area. And it's not even crowded. Like all the people out there are just like, there's no game. Why the fuck am I going to go down there? But like from someone who doesn't like experience that and be able to walk the brick from the outside and like the green and everything that's on the outside of that stadium, like it's impressive. It's something
that's
that,
so crazy, man.
I mean, they never gave that to us being in Los Angeles or Orange County, but we've never been given that ever. So
no, I'm like maybe in the future. I mean, but right now, I mean, it's going to take a while for us to recover from this, this economy that's tanking pretty bad. But
even SoFi, like, what are they going to do? Push people out of those
I
homes and build
I
around
have
it?
no idea. That is so crazy, right? It's like,
Dude,
going back to the Chavez Ravine thing I was telling you about. It's like I didn't know
I hate
about
going to
that
the
till
forum
later.
just because of traffic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pain
Traffic
in the
is
ass. And
bad.
it's like you take the 405. You know why they call it the 405? Because it takes you 405 hours to get to your destination. And I quote from my friend
That's a good
Calvin,
one.
man. He told me that. I'm like, shit.
I like that one.
But shit, man, here's really what I wanted people to get to know you, man. I mean, I wanted to talk about the origins of Frank Ledezma, man. I mean, I know you on an adult level, but I never really knew your life story and how you got to where you are now, and how you grew up to love baseball so much, man, just as much as I do.
Well, my
tell me,
parents
how did
found
it start, man?
Yeah,
How did it
my
all
parents
start?
found me in a basket on the doorstep back in 1975.
Floating from a riverbed.
floating from the Montebello riverbed down to what's the hospital in East Los?
It's called there's White Memorial, and then there's the one I was born at LAUSC Medical Center General Hospital.
I was
which
born
is the oldest hospital.
I mean, I know my mom's not listening, but I think I was born at White Memorial. I think that's what I've heard. So
wow, yeah, that's very iconic. Actually, it's a very old hospital too, but it's very new now.
Yeah,
that's so crazy, man. So wait, you're from Montebello-ish, right? Am I right?
So I mean, my mom's from Montebello. My dad is from Mexico City, and he would come back and forth because my grandmother was born in the United States. My grandfather was born in Mexico. So he would come back and forth.
Your dad was already speaking English because he's a city Mexican.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, really.
My grandfather was a stubborn old man, and he never.
Typical.
He never. And you know what? Honestly, I love Bobby, and he reminds me a lot of Bobby. And most people are like, Bobby. I know you like to call him Robert, and he wants you to call him Robert. Call him Robert, but to me, he'll always be Bobby. He's my shortstop. That's Bobby right there.
That's awesome, man. That's his nickname.
He reminds me a lot of my grandfather. My grandfather, just mannerism and everything.
Wow.
So my dad and his brothers finally moved out here when they were 12. They made the decision to stay out here, and my grandfather would go back and forth. So my grandfather never wanted to learn English. He was too proud, and he never had a reason to learn English. So that meant my grandmother never spoke English, and she never spoke English around us until she passed away, is when we learned that she actually knew everything we were saying.
She
only did that she only acted like she didn't know what was going on because of my grandfather, because he would get upset.
Wow.
He thought it was he thought he was being disrespected if he didn't understand, and she did. It's old school Mexico, bro. It's
it is true. I agree 100% because I've been through that too. So that's that's so crazy. So Montebello-ish. So kind of where did you kind of like? Yeah, Whittier. Okay,
I found I shouldn't say found my roots. My parents moved us to Whittier. And they just saw that the school system was better back then. This is like 85, I think.
Okay.
Because I moved out there in the 5th grade. Yeah.
So did you go to Lucerna?
No, that's too white for me. I know I'm a pocho, Edgar, but that's way too white. We don't have we didn't make enough money to go to Lucerna. My pops is a truck driver, bro. He's not taking us to Lucerna. Back then, pops could raise a family on X, Y, and Z, and be the breadwinner, and mom could stay home. That doesn't happen anymore. So, I went to Whittier High.
Crazy, man.
Yeah, a lot of
people don't know about Whittier High's claim to fame, though.
Which one?
When they shot Back to the Future.
Yeah, I knew. I mean, I was a huge fan of that movie. And we knew they were shooting, and we didn't know what it was. And then when I finally saw the movie, my dad, for some odd reason, he used to hate movies. He used to be like, what the hell are you guys watching when you come home from work? Yeah. So
how ironic.
He took us to go watch. I think he took me to go watch them film that, and he took me to go watch them film Masters of the Universe in Uptown Whittier, like in the
with
5th grade.
Lundgren?
Yeah, it was like midnight, and my dad took me out there for like an hour, and even he was like, he's like, "Have you seen enough? This is stupid. Let's go." Dude, you're on a set. You know how deep they're shooting? You're just like on the outside trying to. You see a light, you know, and you're just like,
that's so crazy, man. Yeah, everyone everyone hardly remembers He-Man. But I mean, for us, you know, us 80s kids and, you know, whatnot, I mean, He-Man was a shit, man.
Dude, and they casted one of the great actors, Frank Lagorian, I can't remember, I can't pronounce his name correctly, as Skeletor.
Yes.
Dude, like, think about that.
Epic, man. Probably one of the best roles I've ever seen. I'm just like, that translated well from the cartoon to real life. I'm like, whoa. So he's a real evil motherfucker, man.
It's like, well, Dolph Lundgren's pretty and he's big. He's not the greatest actor. Let's cast everyone around him that's really good.
Exactly.
Let's cast
he was the face. He already had the whole Ivan Drago kind of like fame, and then No Retreat, No Surrender, and all that stuff.
Stallone found it, man. Stallone found that guy.
Yeah, I remember.
Stallone found, technically found Carl Weathers.
Yeah, he did. God, he's done so much for a lot of actors in their careers, man. I didn't even realize that.
He's done a lot of crazy stuff for testosterone and Australian Jews.
So you go from Whittier, and then in your adult life, you start working for Pepsi right away, or what happened?
Yeah, so move out there in the 5th grade. You were talking about me going to Lucerna. I went to Longfellow, I think, and they said the school was overpopulated, so they bused me to like an East Whittier school or a West Whittier school for like 6 weeks, and my mom bought it, and it was like me and 5 other Mexican kids. Wow. It was like not at all like a lottery or anything. They shipped us out. They shipped us to a district where they thought that we should. And this is 85, dude. And my mom fought it. I mean, my mom was born and raised in the United States. My grandfather, my grandmother, and my grandfather was out there like, you know, Pachuco, fighting for his rights back then. Vote, everybody. So awesome. Please vote, because our grandparents 100%. Fought for it and everyone's family fought for it. So make sure you fucking vote.
100%.
Exercise that right.
Turn my ballot in.
Hell yeah, brother. I got mine in. So anyways, long story short, 6 weeks later, they take me back to Longfellow. And then, you know, I became a whitewashed Mexican going from Longfellow to Dexter to Whittier High.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's so crazy. Like, one of my white buddies told me, he's like, what does it mean by whitewash? I'm like, well, because to them, whitewash is something else. It has to deal with, I think it has to deal with some type of like laundry thing. I don't know what he's talking about. But I go, but to us, like, you know, because I'm still considered pretty pocho to my family because I'm born and raised here, but I am bilingual. But I don't. It's like what Edward James Olmos said in Selena, how we're trying to prove that we're to the Mexicans that we're Mexican enough. We're trying to prove to the Americans that we're American enough, and it's just exhausting. So I grew up with that whole stigma. Plus, I'm light skinned, and I'm just like, okay, well, moral of the story is, for some reason, this is going back to us, speaking English with the American vernacular. When I would say I was American, I got really frowned upon. I'm just like, well, I wasn't born in Mexico. I mean, no offense. I'm not taking any jabs. I go, but my mom is from Mexico, so I'm technically Mexican American. And God bless Cheech and Chong. That was the phrase that I had to coin for a long time, because I was like, okay, I can say Chicano, I can say Pocho, but if I say Mexican American, that song just boom hits.
And they're Ninos and Nanos and Nano Nino Nonos.
And that was it. I was like, oh, okay, so this is And that was awesome, man. So, but okay, so
so really quick,
yeah,
I should have learned Spanish as a kid, and my mom
yeah.
didn't want me to learn it because she didn't want me to be stereotyped back then. You know,
I don't blame. I don't blame at
it's
all,
not it
man.
wasn't a bad choice. In the
Yeah,
long run, it probably wasn't the most ideal, and I
yeah.
respect it and I understand it. But yeah, that was the reason why. And my dad spoke. It's not like he didn't speak to us in English, because he did. He had a hard
Hmm.
time learning it as a kid. He told us,
Yeah,
but you know, he could have taught us Spanish, and you know, they never did. But you know, it's a different time of life back then versus now what we're dealing
totally.
with, and you know
Yeah,
what we're
and
facing.
I understand the whole discriminatory thing back then, because if you
Yeah,
looked, the minute you looked like a minority, then that
yeah,
immediately the prejudice and then the racism would just activate immediately, and that's just something that those people back then were taught as kids,
yeah.
and it led up to what they think of minorities to this day. Man, that's so crazy.
My mom used to say I
But
was Italian when I was little. You tell people
but,
he's
but shit,
Italian.
man. I didn't even know. Okay, like back in the West Coast, that was that was kind of like a thing to do, and
Yeah,
there was a lot of Italians here. But I did not know the history of racism that Italians suffered in the East
yeah.
Coast, man.
Oh yeah, dude. They all did.
Ooh,
Everyone suffered racism on that side of
oh,
the coast
Irish,
coming in.
Italian.
Yeah,
Oh my god, I was just like, whoa.
everybody.
I'm like,
Yeah.
that was like, I didn't know that there was. I mean, there's always been problems with supremacy. I know that, but
I think
um,
one reason why, and not everyone will agree with it because everyone's been educated different ways or they have different
yeah,
experiences. But I really think that, you know, California in a whole, and I should say like metropolitan cities, and even
yeah,
like, you know, a little bit of, you know, the Midwest or the
like
Northwest, not too much because I've been up
central,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a little more diverse because back then our ancestors wanted to move away from all that BS when they first got
yeah,
out here, and they
yeah.
moved west. They definitely moved west. And you know, don't get me wrong, there's tons of racism in Los Angeles and the Southern California
Oh
area,
yeah,
Northern California, you know, look at Oakland.
yeah,
But you know, at
oh
the
yeah,
same time, like, we're a little more diverse. It's not like I've been to the Midwest and the South, and you know, I was in Florida one time in the Keys of all places, where you know, you think there's like a more of a like a an island feel to it. And I walked
yeah.
into this store, and you know, they're selling trinkets in this. I was like, dude, they're playing country here. I would have never thought they were playing country. And the white dude behind the counter,
Wow.
like 10 years older than me, was like, just remember where you're at, boy. You're still in the South. And I was like, you motherfucker. You motherfucker.
Uh,
That's right. You're going to remind me. And that's why every time I see that Confederate flag hanging over my head when
man,
I'm in your state. Okay.
that
So,
is so
dude,
petty and
yeah,
stupid, man.
yeah.
Just
It's
because you
out there,
don't
though.
look like them. I
It's
believe
out
it,
there.
man.
Yeah.
I seen it for myself in Orange County too
Yeah.
at a couple of like punk rock shows, and even the dreaded Ozfest that I would always go to. Oh my god, all the guys from Norco, from San Bernardino, they would show up. I'm just like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they know me. I'm not one of them because I don't look just like them. And
Yeah.
they know for some reason it's like a sniff test or something that they got going on.
Yeah.
But shit, man. So now tell me, how did you transition into service industry? You kind of told me, but how did you
Yeah. I fell into
th-
service industry.
that you fell into that? But when you got out, I was curious to see. I'm just like, wait, I'm like, what is this headset that Frank is wearing on this picture?
So,
And I
so
was
it,
already involved in the
yeah.
business. And then I'm like, wait, Frank, what are you doing now? I'm like, are you in production? Are you doing
Yeah.
film?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah. And I'm like, what
Yeah.
the fuck? I go, how come you didn't tell me this before?
Yeah. I'll give you a brief timeline. Right?
Oh
High
shit.
school,
I'm like,
get a
okay.
job at a grocery store, Alpha Beta.
Yeah. Oh
Assuming I'm
my
probably
God,
just
Alpha
gonna,
Beta.
yeah, Alpha Beta. Assuming I'm gonna work at a grocery store for the rest of my life, not really seeing
Yeah.
outside of, you know, potentially Whittier and, you know, all this nonsense. Um, go from there.
Yeah.
A brief appearance at a Blockbuster and a Marie Callender's, and I'm one of
Oh
the guys who I
wow.
brag that I used to work at Blockbuster. Like,
Oh,
oh
that's
yeah,
epic,
and
man.
we sold
Yes.
tapes, dude. We were renting
Yes.
tapes. You know, Friday night that place was packed.
Yes, it was.
La Jolla came in there one time, like on a Tuesday night
my
with
God,
some girl.
I believe it.
It was funny.
I believe it.
Yeah. Anyway, so with that being said, the grocery industry opened up sales with Pepsi Cola for me. So it opened up beverage industries. And I got into the beverage industry, didn't really go to school. I just hustled my way to, you know, my next job and my next promotion or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then 9/11 happens, dude. And I'm a young man and I'm thinking, like everyone is thinking, what's our next move? And I decided to quit the beverage industry and pursue something that I want to. Like, what do I want to do? You know, everyone's questioning their mortality and their walk of life. And was my goal just to hustle out, become like upper to middle class, white picket fence, golden retriever, or am I looking to do something different? And I went to Cerritos College and took one acting class, an improv class.
Wow.
I didn't know what it was. I thought improv was stand up. And I show up and I'm watching everyone create scenes and create moments spontaneously. And
whoa,
you know,
that's intimidating.
It's fun. It's fun. Yeah, it is fun. And they hooked me, man. They hooked me in. The instructor back then was Kevin Hoggart, and he's one of the most amazing men I've ever been able to be around and a part of. And from there, I just started taking acting classes, and then I was in a couple of plays down there. I got to play Chief Bromden, one of my first roles in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
No way.
Yeah. And I'm older than everyone, technically. I mean, there's some people that were older than me, but I mean, for the most part, I'm like 6 years older than people. Because back then I'm like 26, 27 years old, trying to like transition to something different, and you know, taking film courses and stuff. And you know, some kids are like, "You've done this before, you're lying." And I'm like, "Nah, dude, I've never." I used to think a movie was made the exact same way you're watching it. Like the sequence of a film was shot exactly that way. I had no clue, like, you know, a schedule and production schedule and, you know, locations and all this stuff. So long story short, man, that's what led me to the bar industry, because a guy that I used to work with at Pepsi, he was a good looking kid. He was full on Orange County, big white dude. And he was working with us during the day. He was one of my merchandisers, and he was bartending at night at one of the hot spots. And there was a few times I had to wake him up the next morning, and it was just because he was going from one job to the next.
Holy crap. Okay.
So I connected with him, and he connected me with some advice on how to get into the bar industry, as I was trying to get into, at the time I wanted to be an actor. So that's what got me into the industry.
Tough job, man. Tough occupation, man, I must say.
Yeah. And when you have responsibilities, it's even tougher to like go down that path.
When people start doing it like, you know, full time, even as independents, I'm just like, I see the whole SAG after thing going on. I'm just like, whoa, how do you get all these roles? And they're like,
hustle.
Like, yeah, you have no idea. Yeah, it is. Hustle. It's a lot. A lot.
A lot of people take advantage of them too. I mean, I was in some situations where it was like, you know, you're signing up for something for free, and then you're not able to show up, and you're getting chewed out over the phone by some fucking lackey who's basically like, you know, casting people in and out constantly. And, you know, and back then too, like Weinstein was running the place. So everyone had this like, well, yeah, it was like 2007, 2008. There was no, people weren't thinking of like other people's feelings or anything back then. It was cutthroat.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a trickle down effect. So, but it led me to the industry. And then, I had to step away from it. You can only be a vampire for so long in your life.
Tell me about it, man.
Dude. And I mean, you know, we had some fun times. We had some fun moments.
Oh, yeah.
We met amazing people. We built some brotherhoods and, you know, built some families that are unbreakable, but you know, you can't live that life, or you decide to go down the route of opening up your own place or a couple places and just hope no one, you know, kills someone or breaks a window, you know? So, I finally walked away from it, and then I started doing some work with Film Independent, and PA work, so on and so forth. And once again, I feel like I'm behind the 8 ball because I'm like younger than everyone, and some people are trying to figure out like who I am and what I've done.
They always try to dissect you. They always try to like kind of break you down to see what you're all about. And I've been noticing that's a lot of us. I don't know if it's an insecurity or what, or maybe it's just narcissism that just comes into play. But and that's funny. Yeah, we should talk about this industry because just so we could spotlight it a little bit. Like everything's completely changed, Frank. I don't know. I don't know what's your experience been so far with this whole pandemic in the industry. I know for me, everything I've done has been remote. I have not been on set. I have not done anything in person. Maybe like 1 month I did all video editing in person, and I did it at a hotel suite because nothing's open.
Wow. And you were working with someone inside that suite?
Yes, and that person constantly got tested. I got tested. We were good. I'm like, all right. But when we would have people come in, I'm like, oh, put your mask on. Oh, put your mask on. Oh, put your mask on. Yeah, it's like, okay.
I mean, we learned a lot. It's a historical year. I mean, it's another life-changing year. I mentioned 9/11. This is going to do the same thing to the next 10, 15 years. To be honest with you, I'm not fighting this next step that we're all going to be taking because having to tell adults, like Edge, think about this. Think about this after the pandemic hits. Having to tell grown-ass people to wash your hands and don't touch your nose. We were headed in the wrong direction to begin with. Don't touch your nose. Don't make sure you wash your hands. When was the last time you heard that? How old were you?
Oh my God, man. That is so true, man.
Dude, and everything I've read, all the stories I've seen on it, like even that Italian soccer match that happened, where people were just yelling and the spit's coming out and you're so close to one another and you don't know what's coming off of you. Like the world's changed, dude. We're going to be wearing masks. I don't care when we get this vaccine. We got to keep ourselves clean. We're going to be wearing masks. We're going to have to keep ourselves safe and other people around us safe. Now, what I'm doing is I've done some stuff from home and I've done some stuff in person. A lot of it has been drive-ins.
Wow. So
it's PPE. And for those who don't understand what PPE is, it's the mask, it's the shield, it's the gloves, it's a rapid test. It's testing to having to be on site. It's sanitizer stations everywhere. It's putting a glove on and assigning a PA or someone to take a water bottle and hand it to the person. It's packaged food. No longer can the producers or anyone sit in one room because they've been there late and ordered 3 pizzas and all just eat that pizza without, potentially contaminating each other. So
exactly,
it's changed, and it's not just our industry. Every industry is going to change. I mean, look at what we're looking at. Everyone's eating on the sidewalk like it's Paris right now. Everyone's eating.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Yeah, I just had dinner at Chonitos in Alhambra, and literally our table was on the sidewalk, and I was just like, "Whoa, this is crazy." I mean, it's different. Don't get me wrong.
They have to survive. They have to survive. Yeah, it's on the sidewalk.
Like, holy crap! But the one thing I did notice though, I mean, I'm glad you spotlighted that. I haven't been on set any productions lately, but a lot of projects have been halted.
Yeah,
and then of course the big wigs are the ones they're gonna get past this pandemic no matter what. Like Disney, what's the other big one, like Columbia.
Not even that. Disney, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Warner Brothers. Remember, everyone has switched over to streaming. Streaming is the next wave. As much as we love film and everyone wants to see Christopher Nolan's film on the big screen or Wonder Woman, like Netflix, as much as most people kind of said, what is this? The studios didn't want to go that route. They started the future for a lot of, entertainment from home. And pandemics like this, we're stuck at home. How many Netflix shows have you caught up on? How many streaming shows have you caught up on?
Yeah, a lot.
I watched Cobra Kai finally, and I was like, holy shit, this is actually good.
Yes, it's the best thing ever. I'm glad you watched it. Oh my God. I'm all over that. And me and you can totally relate to that because that's an old school, that's a retro film right there. And well, here's the one thing I've been noticing too is recently my best friend and his wife were trying to book an AMC theater in Orange for us to actually, just go in there and watch 2 movies of our choice. And the booking is 100 people. It's $100 for I think up to 10 people or something like that. I don't know the exact quote, but I'm like, I never thought I would see movie theaters struggling like they are right now.
Yeah.
Like Regal can completely say, hey, we're closing all of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy crap, man, this is not good.
In an odd way, we should have seen this coming with
not
only ticket prices, and I shouldn't say ticket prices, but ticket sales kind of taking a dip unless it's like a big film.
Yeah.
These guys were creating and building multiplexes. They were still stuck in the 90s where we would go and see Jerry Maguire or, Batman and Robin or something like on a Saturday, go see 3 films, in the 80s, like Ghostbusters and the new Schwarzenegger film. It's not like that anymore, dude. It's not.
No, it's not.
And they're going to have to downsize. Like theaters like the Alamo Drafthouse, they knew what they were doing when they created that small little art house. 4 screens, keep it simple, keep it small. Let's make sure people are taken care of. X amount of seats, decent screen, great projection. These guys, they built them like, unfortunately, like, the Blockbusters and the Best Buys and, this big, huge land where, it's 2020 now. Not everyone needs that stuff. You can Amazon half your shit nowadays without having to walk into a big space and have opportunity to like make different choices.
That's so crazy how Jeff Bezos just completely got filthy rich during this pandemic. And so did Elon Musk. That's so interesting. I'm just like, how did this happen again? Like, how are these people getting rich? And for Jeff Bezos, it started a long time ago in a garage, man. You believe that? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, holy crap, man.
But they all, I mean, and I'm not trying to knock anyone, but the why can't I think of his name right now? Jobs.
Steve Jobs.
The one, his story was he came out of the garage. And do you notice everyone's like, oh yeah, I came out of a garage too. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I started in a garage. Like, I get it. Like, you don't have office space, but I mean, you had a great idea and you sold it to people and you did a really good job of that. So, the rich will always get richer, especially when there's a Republican in house.
Mm-hmm. I'm seeing how these cards. You know what show? And I mean, I'm not gonna praise Kevin Spacey for whatever reason, but House of Cards really educated me on that.
Yeah.
And it took a fictitious show to basically say, hey, this is just the plot of how real politics works.
Yeah.
Now, real politics is a lot more brutal than what you just saw.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And,
I was too young to understand Reagan and Reaganomics. I was way too young, and I was too naive to understand George H. Senior.
Yeah.
And I had Clinton, but I understood Cheney and W.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew I had to start fighting the good fight. And a lot of the shit they did, I mean, and not to get too deep into politics, but this knucklehead right now running our country, dude, this knucklehead right now, he makes them look like they're actually doing their job. And they were fucking the country back then.
It started with the Patriot Act. I know that.
Oh, there's so much, dude.
And even before that, I kept up with a timeline for a while because that was the first election I got to vote in 2000, believe it or not. Because that was when I was already 18, but I turned 19 that year. And that's kind of what, like, I'm like, wait, why is there a recount in Florida? And I'm like, why is his brother the governor of Florida?
And I think Fox News was the first to announce it, and everyone just followed along. Yeah.
Oh, look who said, "What's up, Boris?"
What's up, Boris?
Yeah. He always tunes in when I go live.
Awesome.
Here's the next segment of the podcast where, believe it or not, you're familiar with the website Reddit, right?
Yes.
Reddit.com. So
Yes.
I constantly browse in there for some, I always look to help people, at least one person a day. I mean, if it's not through my occupation during the day, sometime at night. There's this subreddit called Reddit Advice. And I usually tell them, hey, I'll be answering your question live on the air. Just follow this link. So there's this one question that and I picked it out just for you because you have a lot of experience with this. And this person's like, okay, I'll tune in and check it out. So this is the question he had. And he says, I'm in a management position, and one of my employees has anxiety problems. And he goes on to say, hi, everyone. I am a manager at a thrift store where we only have one book and media processor. He is amazing at his job, but he has horrible social anxiety and seems to be very uncomfortable with most other people. I sometimes say hello to him when I come in and say goodbye when he leaves for the evening. He's very polite, but generally we, the managers, leave him to his own devices. I think he prefers it that way, but does anyone have any advice as to how we could potentially help him make him more comfortable around his coworkers, or would it be best to let him be? So what would you say to this one? This one's kind of tough.
Yeah. You got to let the person be, but you also have to treat him like you treat anyone else. Him or her. I don't know if it's a male or a female. They're part of the team, they're part of the group, and everyone has different personalities. And you don't have to acknowledge it. You know, we're all kind of different. Some people are a little more introvert than extroverts. If he or she is productive, what's the problem? What's the problem? If you feel like, you know, he or she isn't going to go to the Christmas party, that's fine. Just keep inviting that person. Just always be aware. Just always be aware of not only the person, but the interaction with other people, the way you interact with them. And don't ever make that person feel like they're the outcast, or like, oh, let's treat this person good. Here comes so-and-so, you know, let's make sure he knows he got a gold star or she got a gold star. No, treat them like everyone else. We're all part of the same team, no matter what position you're at. So
now, have you dealt with, I'll take, for example, maybe the service industry or any other industry you've been in. Have you dealt with an employee that had really bad social anxiety?
Yeah. Well, not even in the industry, because you have to be, there's very few introverts that are actually successful in the service industry. And you know, that was just a time of my life. In production, event producing, so on and so forth. Sometimes you're dealing with up to, like, on an average, 150, 180 different people, no matter what project you're working on, 200 people, 250 people, just to get in and build this thing before you even open it to the public. So the personalities you're dealing with, you treat everyone exactly the same. Sometimes you're going to understand that you can't give that person a nickname because they're just not a nickname person. And if you got to call them David or Michael or Thomas the entire time, don't call them Tommy, don't call them Davey, nothing like that. And treat them like they're part of the team, because everyone deals with something. Like all of us are dealing with something all the time. And when it comes to, like, anxiety or stress, you know, sometimes you just got to let people take a moment. And once again, going back to what we were saying about building the trust with the customer, you're also building the trust with people you work with your crew, with your staff, employees, whatever you want to call them, your colleagues. If they trust you, they're going to come to you and tell you, like, hey, I need a moment, dude. Like, so-and-so stressing me out, and either I'm going to explode or I just don't feel productive. Can I take a minute? Yeah, of course. Because we built that rapport. We built that trust. And I know he's walking away or she's walking away for like 10, 15 minutes just to let it all out and then come back.
Yeah.
So
when do you address that particular concern when do you exactly address it when it's a problem though? Like,
when you see that it's a problem,
yeah,
immediately. There's no
wow,
reason to sugarcoat it or whitewash it or avoid it.
yeah,
And it doesn't have to be embarrassment. You know, at my age now, I've learned just pulling someone aside, and not in front of everyone, but you
yeah,
know, sometimes you have to either reprimand someone, or sometimes you have to pass on some information that potentially they're not going to be able to work for the next 2 weeks because we don't have it in the budget. You know, something like that. Just pull them
yeah,
aside and be like, hey, I just, you know, want to let you know, blah, 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 X, Y, and Z. Same thing, you know? Or, you know,
yeah,
when you first report, hey, have a few minutes of your time, come over here real quick. Grab a cup of coffee, grab a bottle of water, you know, and just talk to the person. Talk to them like
wow,
you would want someone to tell you. Just, you know, relate
wow,
to
that's
them,
dope.
understand that this is our next step. This is what needs to be done. You know,
Yeah,
you've been doing a great job, or this is the reason why we're having this conversation, and this is why it can't happen again, or this is why we're going to have to ask you to leave. There's going to be some paperwork, yada yada yada. Um, you know, we've all either been in that position
yeah,
or had to be in the position to talk to someone. So
totally, 100%.
yeah,
Well, I really hope that helps. I mean, I won't give out his username obviously because I can't pronounce it, but I really hope that answered this person's question. And now it's time for the next segment. We're getting close to the end, but not really. This is something that I like to do with a lot of my guests. I haven't done it in a while, but I figure I'll do it with Frank because he probably has some good answers for this one. So these are what I call personal thought-provoking questions, and they're fun because you're basically gonna give me every ounce of your spontaneity with these questions, and I can't wait to hear what you're gonna say. So are you ready for this? You ready
yeah,
for
let's
this?
do this, man. Come on, we're having a good
All right, you
time.
ready? Here we go. Number one, tell me the three best things about you. Tell me the three best things about you.
Besides, I'm a Yankee fan.
I knew you were going to say that. Kiss me, I'm a Yankee fan.
If I was my mother, she'd probably say I was good looking, charming, and a catch. But I'm not my mother, so I would have to say, Jesus, this is the tough
Told
one right
you.
off the bat. I
Yeah.
um I like building camaraderie. I like building
Yeah.
friendships. I like building brotherhoods. I like to feel like I'm part of a tribe. I like to have the freedom to come and go. Like you and I, how many years has it truly
Yeah.
been since we've really connected? Well, look at how we're having a conversation like me on the porch every Sunday. You know what I mean?
Totally.
That's
So
how
it's
it
like
should
riding a
be,
bike.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's trust, and that's just a brotherhood that's unbreakable, and it's something that's built. Um, I've learned to be a little more patient and understanding at an
Yeah.
older age. 45. You kind of learn to take two steps back and assess the situation, or just take a moment, or sometimes let the 24-year-old kid do what he's doing. He's not going to hurt anyone.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I've understood what the meaning of family is as an older age. It's the
Really.
meaning of family is not just, hey brother, boom, 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 good to see you. Like the true meaning of family is like your core, like that family that you can go back to and either be a goofball or the most worst stress case in the world, just to like let it go, and that family's going to be there and support you, like that tribe that you truly have that's going to
Yeah.
support you through everything.
I hear
So
you
I think those are the
100% on
three
that.
things. Yeah, I'll stick with
Awesome.
those three.
All right. Very, very good. Very good. All right. You ready for this next one?
Yeah, it can't be more difficult than the last one.
There will be. It is because this is.
What
I
are we
struggled with
peeling
this
an
one
onion? You come on.
because I'm only giving you a specific set of choices here. But all right,
Got it. Let's do it.
who are the three greatest living musicians? Keyword living. Who are the
Dave
three
Grohl?
greatest living?
Dave Grohl.
I knew you were going to
Dave
say
Grohl.
that. I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say
I've
that.
seen so many amazing musicians in the past 10 years now. The first two I'm gonna say is Dave Grohl and Eddie Vedder.
Oh yes,
phenomenal. Like there's very few concerts I can listen to while I'm running, and I can listen to their concerts and just like, it's zen, dude. It's total zen. I want to say the third person, and there's I'll give you my fourth closest, but I want to say it's Hetfield from Metallica.
From James Hetfield,
yeah. I've seen him perform 3 times now in my life, and
he's a hell of a songwriter, man.
Dude, they put a show on, and they play hard. We just saw him at the Chris Cornell tribute concert, and
that's right. They did do a Cornell one.
Dude, they came out hard. They came out hard, and you're like, these guys are almost 60, and they're just like, no.
They're pushing it, yeah.
And then you're boy,
they still kill it, man. Yeah.
And one of my favorite albums is their symphony, their Metallica and Symphony albums that they do.
Yeah.
With the San Francisco Orchestra.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They just came out with a second one.
Oh my God. I know.
They just came out with a second one, and it's like, whoa. But that first one they did with Maestro Michael Kamen, rest in peace. He passed away. Yeah. That was a masterpiece, man.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I still listen to that thing. Oh my God, dude.
It's so like and shit, man. I can't. There's like I said, this is tough because you're forced to pick 3. But I mean, you have honorable mentions with this stuff.
Well, my honorable mention is your guy, De La Rocha.
Which one? Oh, Zach. Yeah.
Saw him at Coachella. The one and only time I've been at Coachella.
Yeah, I seen you there. I seen you the 2007 reunion.
I broke my glasses. Dude, yeah.
I lost a shoe. I was like, holy crap, man.
One of the greatest mosh pits I've ever been in.
That was intense, man. And back then, Jen was my girlfriend. She's now my wife. And I had to hold on to her the entire time. And I felt my feet go like this.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm levitating. I'm like, what is going on?
So we were at Summer Sanitarium, and I remember one year 2 of the pits meshed to each other, and I thought that was the greatest thing I've ever seen. I thought that was the greatest thing I've ever been a part of.
2000 Summer Sanitarium?
I think it was. We went back to back.
When Kid Rock played?
Kid Rock.
I was at that one.
Play all the instruments?
Yes, and then before Korn came on, there was a lemon fight in the crowd because they were selling lemonade.
They were selling lemonades and cutting half the lemon, and the lemon was like this big, and people were throwing.
God. And who opened up? System of a Down.
Oh,
and they play for only 20 minutes.
Amazing, though. That's the only time I've ever seen it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, my God. Who just showed up? Look at this.
I know.
Alex.
The tank. Alex. What's up, brother? So thinking that was the greatest mosh pit I've ever seen, going to Coachella and being a part of that Rage mosh pit was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Man. There was a few times I was by myself. Like, I broke away from the guys I went with. I ended up just doing the grounds by myself. And I remember a couple times they just recognized me from working at Havana House and picked me up.
Yeah. I was like, holy crap. That's how I ran into you. I ran to you before the show started. I remember that. And I was like, the atmosphere was so chill because Willie Nelson just played. And then Manu Chao went on before Rage Against the Machine and I was like,
didn't Depeche Mode or something like that play too?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm like, this is the calm before the storm, isn't it? I go, some energy is just gonna just implode right now. And I was like,
that was amazing.
They were so nervous. I could tell though, because that was the first show like in 7 years. I was like,
well, you probably seen him down at the Forum, right?
No, I did not get to see them at the Forum.
My brother saw him a couple times down there, and he said it was
And I missed the Grand Olympic Auditorium concert because we could not bum rush the security and get in because they were not letting people in anymore. So I guess who opened up for them at the Grand Olympic Auditorium?
Foo
Fighters.
Oh, dude.
Foo Fighters. Yeah, it was Foo Fighters.
That's my all-time favorite. Like, I can watch Foo Fighters once a week.
Well, when I seen you and Robert at LA Invasion at the old Home Depot Center, I strongly felt that Foo Fighters should have headlined that night and not Smashing Pumpkins. I'm not raining on Smashing Pumpkins, but when you had Dave Grohl running around the entire like the entire outside of the barrier with his guitar,
I'm like, he jumped off the
stole the show. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm like, this guy's gonna get hurt. This guy's gonna get hurt. And no, he didn't. I was like, oh man.
We saw them at Wrigley a couple years back. And that was like,
that must have been awesome.
Like, first of all, I'm standing on Wrigley Field, and I've seen so many games here, but I'm actually standing like before the concert even started. I was raving to my girlfriend, like, babe, we're standing on first base. Babe, we're standing on second base. Like we were on Wrigley. And then to see the Foo Fighters and Grohl just hammer it home.
That's epic, man. Yeah, that's bucket list shit right there.
Foo Fighters, dude. Love those guys.
Yeah. I still listen to them too, man. Shit, that's always going to be one of my all-time favorite bands too. So,
and I always find it's one of the you're a fan when all of a sudden you realize how good a song was from like 97 or 2001 or 2002.
Oh,
and you're like, wait a minute, let me hear this one 10 times today.
Yeah. Like for example, I was listening to Color and the Shape 2 days ago, and I did not realize how good Johnny Park is, the song Johnny Park.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man. And I'm like, okay, it's like the flows, melodies are there, the dynamics of the music. I was like, okay, I get why I like these guys. So
you always stumble upon one of the great songs that is just like hidden in an album when it comes to a Foo Fighters album.
Exactly. Awesome. All right. We're gonna go from musicians and music to top 3. You ready for this one?
Yes.
Give me your top 3 favorite movies, Frank.
Oh, first of all, I'm going to go back to, and this kind of translates into movies because I didn't realize it was on the soundtrack. I want to say For Me, Myself, and Irene, Breakout by the Foo Fighters.
Yes.
I've been listening to one of their live versions from Australia, I think, or something like that. And it is amazing. Oh, man.
Yeah, it is. Was that the one where Taylor Hawkins does a solo in between? I
think so. I just know Dave's yelling like just from the beginning, dropping F-bombs and screaming into the mic. So good. So good. And speaking of Taylor, have you seen his new album and his album cover where he's basically drawn out like a WWF wrestler?
Yeah,
like
it's pretty badass, isn't it? Yeah, isn't it badass? I was like, oh, that's cool.
He's like Macho Man, dude. Like
that guy's so awesome, man. I'm like, gosh, I've only had the pleasure to meet them backstage like one time, and I'm like, God, I can totally party with these guys.
Yeah,
I'm like, they're that cool.
I don't even think I've ever been. I don't think I've been around Dave.
He's got the drip, man. He's a magic.
We'll go to the movies, but really quick. I did go to the Prince concert they did recently too, right before the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
And he did little Darling Nikki. Oh
wow,
dude.
Really?
Yeah, that was a treat. Yeah, that was amazing. It was one of the best experiences.
Amazing. Yeah. They play like their last day on earth is coming. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's like that's their secret, man. They just play. They leave it all.
They hammer it, dude. They hammer it, and they're always yelling like, "Yeah!"
It's like where's that energy coming from? Yeah.
It's top there, 3 movies. We all have it, right? I've seen you do that. Just banging some rave songs, dude.
I still got it, man. I still got it.
I know you do.
You just tap into it. It's the weird thing.
Maybe we could get a note before we close out the night from you.
Yeah.
So the one film. This is one of the. I mean, when I used to sit in editing rooms, we would talk film all day. It was one of those things where, in an odd way, back then it was a testosterone-driven room of like 12 guys who would sit there and edit the shittiest little films ever and just talk about film constantly. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid will always be my all-time favorite.
Incredible.
Like, greatest film ever made.
I had that on VHS.
Dude, from the moment it starts to the end, the lines, Paul Newman, Robert Redford, I mean, just everyone. The lead actress who's still stunning and gorgeous. Just such a good movie. And even the end, did they die? Did they not die? What do you want to believe?
The cliffhanger.
But you know, to survive, you know?
Oh man, the cliffhanger.
A couple of them out there. So many good lines in that movie. The everything else kind of falls into like, depending on my mood, randomly, blah blah blah. I'll go with an all-time classic, which is Ghostbusters, because I think
the first one.
Dude, they had so many great lines.
Oh, dude.
Like, you know, dogs and cats.
Don't cross the streams. That's all I used to say as a kid.
Dude, it's a classic. It's so good. Like, I mean, even Bill Murray, just like, there's a moment where he's like trying to coerce Sigourney Weaver to go on a date with him, orange jacket, kind of dancing around the water fountain, and like just being Bill Murray as much as he can is just so genius. And if I recall, I saw Belushi recently. It's a documentary that's going to be coming out on Showtime, and I believe technically one of the roles was supposed to be for John Belushi, because him and Aykroyd were best friends. Yeah. They were really good friends.
Interesting. Okay.
Let's see. Another film. You know what? I'm gonna go, since me and you probably have a whole hour on films.
Yeah, totally.
I'm gonna go one that's really relevant right now, but I don't know if too many people know. And you know, it's something that I would love for people to watch. And it's been an overlooked masterpiece for way too long. It's Spike Lee's Malcolm X.
Oh, wow, yes.
One of the greatest films I've ever seen. And I saw that in the movie theater in 92.
Oh, yeah.
It's Denzel's best performance ever. Like,
100%. Second to, would it be number one for Denzel?
As far as best film?
The performance-wise.
Yeah, best.
You think so? Wow, yeah.
Spike is amazing. You know, we got that. He Got Game, Mo Better Blues, Inside Man. Like, Spike just lets him. He basically says, "Hey, give me what you want," and he just puts the camera on, and Denzel just does what he wants.
Inside Man is such a good film too, man.
It's a great film. It's an amazing film.
I'll make a bold statement here by saying that my GOAT of acting, that's still alive, of course, is Denzel Washington.
Yeah. Even in a bad film, you can't go wrong with it.
Yeah, it's just like, dude, he could do it all.
He can.
And then when I seen him in Training Day, though, I was just like, wow. Where did that come from? I was like, oh man, that's just it still pumps me up watching that film, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
King Kong ain't got nothing on me.
Oh man. It's like, and now props to Ethan Hawke too, though. I mean, in that film, but Denzel, I'm like, as long as I've been watching film, man, since I was a kid, it was him.
Yeah.
It was him, Robert Redford.
Okay.
And believe it or not, I don't know why, for some reason, I still have a fascination with him, is Harrison Ford.
Well, because we grew up knowing Harrison Ford was a god.
Yes.
Like, it was Han Solo and Indiana Jones, Edge.
Oh my God, man.
Anything else. Like, man. Walk into a bar and go, "Hello, I'm Harrison Ford." And everyone's like, "Oh."
Oh man. I'm like, oh dude. Like I wanted to talk like that guy for like his tone and delivery, his vernacular. I'm like,
everything he does.
I went through a fandom with that guy for a long time. I was like, the mannerisms with his eyes. I'm just like, I can't do it, man.
Yeah, he's like,
oh shit.
We even watched Hollywood Homicide recently, and it's a bad film.
Oh my God.
So good at it. It's like, how do you not like Harrison Ford in this movie? He did another one with Rachel Adams where he played like this begrudged like broadcaster, and he has to do like morning television. I don't remember the name of it. It was like 5-6 years old, and he just nails the role, dude. It's just, he's just so great in it.
Oh wow. Yeah. He's one guy that at this point in his career, he can pretty much do or say anything on camera and it will be a masterpiece. I was like, God, man.
lets his kid kill him in Star Wars. Hopefully, I'm not spoiling anything for anybody by this time. 10 years later,
it's been 3 years, so
it's been 20 years now.
yeah.
And then he goes and does a movie with a CGI dog, and it's like, you know, like he's just like doing his thing. Let me pull some more paychecks before I call it a day. You know who's someone else that was, who like I would challenge people to revisit his films? Gene Hackman.
Man,
that guy is
don't get me started on Gene Hackman. He is
everything he did. He was known as a one-take man. Like he'd get in there and do it in one take.
Yeah, I believe it. I've heard stories and I didn't believe them until I started working at LA Center Studios and started talking to all the veterans there. And I'm like, he's like, you remember Gene Hackman? I'm like, yeah. They're like, yeah, that we call him one take Gene. I'm like, one take Gene? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then I'll leave it at that. And then later I heard, I'm like, well, this guy just nails it on the first try. And I'm like, that's impossible.
I would say for anyone who isn't familiar with Gene Hackman and wants to dive into it or take our challenge, start off with the French Connection. Follow it up with Uncommon Valor. And then watch the Royal Tenenbaums. And then if you like all three of those films, watch anything he's in. Anything.
Yes, the Royal Tenenbaums. Oh man, dude, epic, man, epic.
Classic.
All right, last question, and this is my favorite one. All right, if you could time travel, Frank, if you had the ability, you know you could do it just right now, where would you go?
Where would I go?
Think about that. Yeah, like what era, what time?
And that's future and time travel,
right? It could be any, forward or back, man. Think about that.
Well, we could pull a Marty McFly and Back to the Future 2 and warn everyone about Trump and all the bullshit that might face in the next 20 years. There's a pandemic and there's a reason why you're wearing $200 custom masks.
Yeah, it's like right now that question is tough because like when would you travel back to?
I mean, I would travel forward. War in the future. Hey, all you kids, there's a reason why you're living like this right now, and you know, change it now. Let's change it. So and we could do that now. I mean, you know, get out there and vote, man. We got like 6 days. Things are open. Go and vote. Find the place that you can walk right in and get a sticker and put in your vote. I don't care who you vote for. Just you have the freedom and the right. And there's so many people out there in this world who don't have that right. So get the fuck out there and vote as a goddamn U.S. citizen.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? You mentioned that because a lot of my friends who are felons, they're like, man, this is bullshit. I'm like, yeah, it is, man. He's like, and they were getting on my case. They're like, you're gonna vote, right? I'm like, yes, I am going to vote. Because I'm always on the state and local stuff, like constantly, because I love my home state, but I know it's got some bugs to work out. And no state is perfect. I know that.
Yeah.
But it's good to be informed and read up on the stuff and just, you know, be active. And I mean, I hate to say it, Frank, too. It's like I have to have friends that are kind of opposed to my views and whatnot, so I can learn a little bit and not learn what not to do sometimes, most of the time. and just know, like, okay, well, you know, I can think for myself, and I can see a good cause when I see it. And I know that there's a lot of stuff that's just still been around since the early 1900s that to this day, it's like, okay, how is it still alive? We're in 2020.
Yeah.
And so, it has to stop. It has to change, man.
I got twofold. One of them, do your research on the propositions, because one of the propositions right now allows ex-felons and criminals who, and I'm sorry to use that term criminal, because I don't know who or what or why anyone went to jail or prison, but it allows them to be able to vote once they're released from one of the penitentiaries or jail with a record. One of the propositions, and I apologize, hopefully we can throw that out there later on so you guys can get a little more information on it. The other thing too is, I've been saying this since, you know, W won the second term and the greatest president 44 took over office. I don't care who you vote for, but vote, man. Just vote. It's okay to have different opinions. It's okay to have those conversations. If we conversations and not said, "Oh, don't talk about politics, religion, and I don't know, was it sex or whatever."
Yeah.
In at the bar, it's like if you had more of those conversations as an adult, and you didn't touch your nose, and you didn't you covered your mouth, and all the things they tell you as a kid not to do. If you're able to do those as an adult, then you're going to understand what progression is, and you're going to allow other people. You're going to be a leader. You're going to allow other people to do the same thing and listen.
Yeah.
And it's okay to have those conversations. It's okay to disagree. You don't have to argue. It's okay.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a divide. People are going to believe one thing. People are going to believe another thing. Whether they make that decision on their own, whether they make that decision part of the family or religion, or just where they work. Nowadays, people just vote because they want to protect their own jobs. So.
Yeah, and it's imperative that we start that movement now, because I look to the youth. I mean, these are the future leaders of the country. If they just so solemnly get involved, get educated. I'm not saying they have to be an Albert Einstein about this stuff, but at least be informed and make sure you thoroughly read stuff. I know there's a big problem, I call it a literacy plague.
Yeah.
Don't just read the headline, read the entire article, look into it more, base your choice and your judgment on your own research, and don't be afraid to ask questions. That's like a big deal. It's like, and I made it a big deal about me putting pictures of my ballot on Facebook and Instagram. Said, hey, if you guys have any questions about the propositions and what the pros and cons are, I will give you the pros and cons. I'll let you choose, but just consider it. Yeah, it's
right
in
here.
your pocket. It's
right
in your
here.
pocket,
and everyone knows.
In your pocket.
Maybe I'm sure you have some younger folks listening and following you. Our generation comes from a generation where they put phones in our pockets, and then we were like, "Oh, look at this flip phone! I got a razor. Let me take a picture of you. Give me your number. I'll text you." And I had a pager at a high school. I had a pager.
Oh my God, pager codes.
Yeah, are you a drug dealer? Are you a doctor? What the fuck you got a pager for? I don't know. My buddy's gonna call me. We're gonna go drink some beer.
Let me borrow your phone so I can call my voicemail real quick.
Yeah, hello. There's a generation that's just been bombarded with information, and if they understand, they find the sources that they trust, they find the sources that they believe. They try to avoid going down too many rabbit holes, and just take in what you can. You don't have to take it all in one day. Just take in what you can.
Yeah.
They have a better advantage than any of us. And some people might disagree because it's like, well, they got too much information. It's diluted. Yeah, it might be. But I mean, I'm still getting my information from specific news sources that I trust, that I either listen to or watch, or, and sometimes I'll dive onto the other side to find out what they're talking about. And, sometimes I'm just like, what am I watching right now? Turn this off.
I agree.
That's my opinion. That's my opinion,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we have so many resources for free right now at the tip of our fingers that there's no excuse anymore. There's no excuse. It's like the Dodgers.
Not.
There's no excuse for the Dodgers not winning that World Series, Edge. That was their World Series.
It was like, if they didn't win it, I was like, okay, nothing's going to happen from here on out. So I was like, okay, this is the end of the world for us. So, well, shit, man.
I will say, and I'm sorry, and some people disagree because we are in California, and tons of people think Mike Trout is the greatest baseball player in the league right now.
Oof.
But Mookie has 2 rings, and their numbers are pretty close. So I got to give that edge to Mookie. As much as I love Trout, and I've seen him play, and I've seen Mookie play, I think right now Mookie is the best player in the league.
Look at his versatility. Look what he did in Boston, for example. Yeah. And now he's bringing that same element.
Yeah. He wasn't off the bench winning World Series. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, Poppy on the mat, in the dugout. You have some big players out there. Pedroia is still on that team.
Yeah,
but he has taken himself away from being the limelight, and he's led in the clubhouse, and he puts up numbers. Even when he goes over 4, his series isn't over. Look at what he did in Game 6 for you guys.
It's
he
amazing.
Even said,
it's amazing.
When he saw that Snell got pulled off the mound, he was like,
he knew.
Hey, bro, your coach made the call. Here we go. Like, he knew it. Like he was like, "Ching, I'm ready to play."
Us Dodger fans call it. He got Dave Roberts.
Yeah, he did. A lot of
Because
people.
Dave Roberts is notorious for doing that. It's like, why?
You know, as a Yankee fan, and I'm sure some people are gonna like, they're already saying this, but we got our asses beat all season long, and even the last couple of years, the Rays have kind of had our number. We got our asses beat all season long by that team. Cash has done an amazing job with. He has coached that team and managed that team to the World Series during a pandemic, during a season that probably never should. He got them there to Game 6. He makes one bad decision and his whole career is being questioned. That's not cool. This analytics is kind of bullshit. You let the coach coach. The thought process was we never want to see our pitchers see the batters 3 times. So if they've already seen batters twice, you yank them. That's when you got to make the decision to say, I'm going to trust my pitcher. Let's see what he can do. And that's the one bad decision he made.
Baseball is chess. It's not checkers. That's what people don't understand.
And the funny thing is, it felt like Roberts was playing checkers every time it was pulling all your pitchers way too soon.
Especially when he pulled, I think it was Urias early, and I think it was like game 3 or 4. I forgot which one, but I'm just like, what are you doing? I'm like, okay. But
Urias
I hope he sticks around for a while. So, and Gonzalez too. So I hope they both stick around for a while.
Bobby, I can't wait to see Urias in pinstripes.
Yeah. I'm like, trade coming, trade.
You know, I told David Ortiz that one time at Havana House.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was there with was it Ordonez, the pitcher?
Yeah. I remember.
He was there one night.
Cigar night. I remember that.
Yeah. And they were in the back in the alley, and they were hanging out by my truck, and I walked up to him, and I shook his hand, and I was like, hey, Big Poppy, can't wait to see you in pinstripes. And he's like, oh,
man. I remember meeting him there one time. I was like, God, dude, I'm like, you're so fucking, like, he's like big. He's big. He's bigger than life, man. I was just like, God, this is Big Poppy, man. I'm like,
Big Poppy,
man.
It's like seeing Shaq.
Good times, man.
Like, holy shit, that's Shaq.
Yeah, and I was like, oh man, good times, man. Well, shit, Frank, dude, thank you again for being on the podcast, man. We caught up. I mean, shit, we can do a sequel to this thing, man. I mean, if you want to come back in it, we should do it.
Yeah, I'm game. We never even got to wrestlers.
I know. I'm like, that's something we didn't touch, but I'm like, maybe we could have a third guest. Maybe we could brainstorm and see who we could bring in and talk about that.
Who are your before you wrap it up? Let me ask you a question. Who are your 3 all-time favorite wrestlers?
Oof. All right. Number 1, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Yeah.
Number 2, Ric Flair.
Okay.
And number 3, believe it or not, you're not gonna. And a lot of people are like, why him? I'm like, just because I know he, as a big man, he proved himself like 4 times over with 2 of the honorable mentions that I have on my list, and that's The Undertaker.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
And my 2 honorable mentions is because he had epic matches with Shawn Michaels and Triple H.
Wasn't there a rumor one time where it was a different Undertaker? Like, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Was it him? All of a sudden, it wasn't him, but it was someone else.
It was who played the other Undertaker? It was a SummerSlam thing, Undertaker versus Undertaker. Yeah. It was so crazy. As a kid, I was just like, what am I watching?
Oh yeah, dude.
But nonetheless, I was like, someone asked me that earlier, like, who do you think is the best actual pro wrestler, in-ring pro wrestler of all time? I'm like, dude, well, without a doubt, is the Dragon. And they're like, oh, not Macho Man. And I'm like,
dude,
no, man. I go, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. He's probably the best all time. Yeah. He's that good.
Macho doesn't even make that top 5 list. I mean, I would put Bret Hart up there. I would put Chris Benoit.
Brett's another one.
Kurt Angle is so underrated. I mean, he was an Olympic wrestler. Yes. That guy was wrestling with a broken neck, wasn't he? Or like a broken
he to this day, I mean, he's sober now, but his way of life is just not good. And he always contemplate on going back to that addiction lifestyle, but he's fighting it. I'm just like, man, and his arms all atrophied from the pinched nerves that he's had. I'm just like, wow, man. Yeah. But Undertaker, countless number of times, man, he's proven to me like to be probably the baddest dude in that locker room too, man.
Maybe we have a conversation just on marijuana and why athletes should be taking marijuana.
Oh man, don't even get me started. I'm like,
We
I
can
am
start
so
with Ricky
pro.
Williams and have an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh man, and to this day, he's still demonized by the NFL, which is so weird. But and shit, that's a sequel right there, man. We got to get it on. We got to get it on.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you,
wanting
man.
to bring me on and have this conversation. You know,
totally. Before we go, do you want to plug anything in? Do you want to give a shout out to anyone? Do you want any Jerry Springer? Was it last words?
Well, it's not your baby, so don't worry about it. No, man. I mean, I've been sprinkling it in, and 'tis the season, and vote. That's it.
Yeah.
Just vote. And if anyone's wondering why it says Riggins, I can't find the point here. It says Riggins here for my name. Yeah. That's the character that Michael Keaton played in Birdman. So that was my
so I hope people caught on to that because Birdman was epic, man. Oh my gosh, man.
Great. But yeah, just vote, man. That's all I want to say. I want to plug people to get out there and vote, and I don't care who you vote for. Just vote. Just exercise your right. Do it.
Sounds good. Sounds simple. Not a big request. Thank you again, Frank, for coming on. For those listening, those watching, please tune in for the next podcast. I'm trying to do this at least once a week. I know a lot of people have been giving me shit for I used to go like 3 times a week, Frank. You know that shit?
You're the Joe Rogan of San Gabriel Valley. I already know that.
Man, that's what everyone's calling me. I'm like, I'm self-proclaimed, man, but I love doing this shit because it's fun, and I really miss being in front of people in person because that's how it all started for me. I mean, I'm a natural socialite, so but thanks again, man. Thanks for being on. And we'll see you at the next one, man.
Cool.
All right, brother. Take care. Peace.